Okay, I think we will kick off today's webinar. As I see, we've got a pretty great attendance. I'm sure we'll build over time. So welcome everybody to another installment in our webinar series. Today we are bringing very much a international flavor to our webinar, showing off our international or the international nature of Integrity 360. But a bit more on that when I introduce our panelists. So our topic today is AI, but importantly and specifically risk management practices. And that really extends from the governance all the way to testing our AI systems, which is what we're going to talk about. As we'll discuss, and as I'm sure everyone is well aware, AI is everywhere, but it must be secured in order to protect it and ensure it can't be abused, which is the risk that we're facing. So if we move on to introducing our panelists today. Today we're joined by Eugenio and Alex. So Eugenio, Bongiorno Eugenio, is part of our Italian team and has extensive experience in the IT telecommunications sector, where he developed a strong background in business continuity. Since 2010, he has been actively involved in information security and compliance. And in recent years, he has complemented industry standards with a deep understanding of relevant European regulations, one of which I'm sure we'll touch upon today, Eugenio. So today he serves as practice manager for the South European team within our CRA division of Integrity 360. So that's our cyber risk and assurance team. Also joined by Alex, or Yasas Alex, based in Greece. Alex has a broad cybersecurity background developed over the last 7 years. Following his degree in computer science, he has held roles including a programmer for NATO, cybersecurity consultancy roles, leading a pen test team, and managing pre-sales. His claim to fame is finishing third in the leaderboard for Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. And importantly, specifically for this discussion, he is a AI and ML certified expert. So welcome both to this webinar.
Thank you, Rich. Hello, everyone.
So before I hand over to my panelists to walk us through this, I thought I'd just start by setting the scene. And really, why are we talking about AI? Well, very clearly, AI is on the rise. It's probably pretty obvious that it is absolutely everywhere. Become very much part of daily life. And if it's not, I suggest you make it part of daily life to keep up. And organizations are scrambling to integrate it absolutely everywhere. And that's to maintain competitiveness, that competitive edge over the competing organizations, but also to meet customer expectations. There's an expectation for AI to be baked in every single tool. And us as security practitioners, we probably see it in every single security tool is checking or ticking that AI checkbox. But it's about making it useful, but also it's about securing it. But the applications for AI are pretty extensive. In everyday life, we are using it, virtual assistants. And even if you're not, you'll see that every time you search for something on Google, you'll get an AI generated response, which is a headache for marketing people, but that's a whole nother topic. But we're using it for everything from those assistants to our social media with photo filters and effects. Businesses are using it, baking it into their processes, using it for customer service. Most of customer service bots are all AI based, serving up information. But there's a strong history of those being abused to spit out far too much information or the wrong information. We're seeing it in healthcare, used to assist with medical diagnosis. For a while now, we've seen it used in the discovery of potential medicines and remedies, but also in other areas. Now, somebody I spoke to at a conference not too long ago, as part of her PhD, was going to Africa to test out a AI-driven model to allow doctors to train their interns without needing to be there all the time by implanting that knowledge. So there's a strong healthcare application. We're seeing education. There's probably two parts to education. Using it to as part of that personal learning. I suppose from the university and colleges perspective, looking for that AI input inputs into work submitted. And as I said, as part of cybersecurity. So whether that's threat detection and prevention, understanding and scanning for vulnerabilities, security operations, very common cloud security, data security. So whether it's in our business lives, when it's our working lives, whether it's in our everyday lives, we're seeing that AI is very much part of it. And it's important that we think when we're deploying AI systems, so not just the using AI systems and how attackers can use those, but actually what we need to focus on is when we're utilizing AI, when we're implementing it and integrating it into our applications, then we have that responsibility, not just for securing it, but also the ethical use of AI overall. I'm sure there's some of the topics that we're going to touch upon. So I will stop sharing and I will hand over to Eugenio to kick us off. Eugenio, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rich, for your introduction. Let me share my screen now so we can continue. Okay, perfect. Also, okay. Can you see my screen? We can continue.
We're good to go, Eugenio.
I think, Rebecca, we have to launch a poll question now. Okay, just a quick introduction, a quick poll question to understand how are you using AI in your daily task and your daily activities. Can we have any feedback, Rebecca? Perfect. So everyday task and consumer application, we can say that consumer application is the most used AI application today, but we can see that also on the business side, most of us are using AI day by day in our normal task. Fortunately, a very small number of people are using AI for healthcare and medical diagnostics. On the education side also, cybersecurity and threat detection, obviously, this is our sector. So, okay. And also on the legal and regulatory compliance, but we can say that the most used application is on the everyday task and consumer application. Thank you, guys. We can continue now. Let me organize my notes and we can continue. Perfect. Okay, so thank you, Rich, for your quick introduction about the AI that is raising on. So now, for the example we have seen in the previous slide and illustrated by Rich, all the example confirm the fact that AI is rapidly becoming a part of business processing, and also our poll question confirmed that AI is rising on also on the business side. So the risk involved are now concrete and are increasingly very rapidly, very quickly. We had a clear example in Italy a few weeks ago when the Italian Data Protection Authority had to intervene to highlight a significant potential risk due to doctors sharing patient medical records on platforms like ChatGPT to obtain faster diagnosis. This brings us back to the crucial point of today's webinar. How are these risks managed in practice? How can we face this risk with AI platform and AI utilization in our day-to-day activity? Let me say that the answer begins with governance. So a good governance is a basic starting point for AI risk management. Let's move on to the next slide, where we can take a look on the approach of today's webinar. we are offering today a comprehensive, a practical path to address the challenges of AI risk management, obviously, as already said. We will begin with the risk management challenge, understanding the unique risk factors that arise from the adoption of AI in our organization, in our daily activities, highlighting the importance of an integrated governance approach. Next, we can have a look on the main three frameworks actually on the market regarding AI, so NIST AI RMF, ISO 42001, and the EU AI Act. The third point is the technical validation. So Alex could be very helpful today with us to explain us the technical point of view, how we can test our AI model. And we will conclude our journey today by outlining a practical roadmap for an AI implementation, which will help you define organizational ownership and build a sustainable, repeatable AI risk management model. Also in this case, Rebecca, probably there is another poll questions. Perfect, thanks. The use of AI in your organization, what is the primary use of AI in your organization today? You can also you can also click on multiple choice. So the question before was about your day-to-day activity. Now is your, let me say, your organization work. Just a little bit, and then we can have the results. Perfect. So we can say that, there are a good balance between automating internal processes, improving customer experience, and also exploring new cases, AI use cases. Okay.
Which, if I jump in there, I think, that's not uncommon, really, exploring those AI use cases. I think, particularly internally, how do you utilize AI best?
Yes.
Is not an easy question to answer. So it's not surprising, but it's good to see that plenty are taking and making use of AI as part of their organization.
Yes, and also let me say that we can see that supporting compliance risk management is the lowest one. Okay, good.
Yeah, but it is on there, Eugenio. That's the important thing.
But this is our job. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Now we can start with the first topic, AI risk management challenge. We can say that the rapid adoption of AI technologies is introducing a whole new set of risk vectors that traditional security approach may not be equipped to address. We are not just talking about familiar cybersecurity threats. We are dealing with risks that are inherent to the nature of AI itself. So we can read here how the main risk identified in these slides. First, we have data privacy concerns with training data sets. AI models we use are only as good as the data they are trained on. However, in these data sets if these data sets contain personal identifiable or sensitive information, there is a significant risk of privacy breaches, as already explained regarding the case of the Italian authority. So we need to consider how to protect the data throughout the entire life cycle of the model, from training to deployment. Okay. Let me also say that we are talking about AI, but we cannot forget all the other regulations like GDPR, for instance. Okay. Next one is model bias and decision transparency issues. AI models can inadvertently learn and perpetuate biases present in the training data, leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. So we have to understand why an AI model made a particular decision, and this can be incredibly difficult. This is a risk because this lack of transparency poses major ethical and compliance challenge. The third risk we have identified is the prompt injection, and in this case, Alexander could be most detailed than me in the next slides. But we can say this is a new type of threat where a user inject a malicious prompt to manipulate AI model behavior. So an attacker can also potentially overriding our safety feature, our security feature, and causing to the AI model to reveal confidential information. Okay. Then the API, third-party API dependencies. Also, the API could be a risk. When we are integrating AI in our software, we often rely on the internet, on the public, on the external of our organization, rely API and services. So this creates a significant supply chain risk. And we are aware that most of the last attackers are using a supply chain. I remember also in Italy last spring, a couple of big attacks and big data breaches involving a supply chain. And this could be always a great risk. So we have to face and to address this risk in the right way. Last but not least, let me say regulatory compliance. Why regulatory compliance is a risk? Because the regulatory landscape for AI is still taking shape with different regions and countries introducing their own rules and frameworks. And an example is just the EU AI Act, we have to discuss later in this webinar. So if we have a worldwide organization, a multinational organization operating in different countries and in different regions, we have to check and we have to follow how the regulatory is moving, is growing. Okay, this is another important risk we cannot ignore. Then the next slides. With the next slide, we will take a look on the main standards currently used by the organization and currently present on the market regarding AI. The first is the NIST AI RMF. Is part of the big NIST family standard family. Okay. You can see here, I can say that this is a positive news in the new standard. You can see here this picture is very, very similar to this. Remember me the deming cycle of the ISO standard. So we can say also that from this perspective, NIST and ISO are working in a very similar way. So you can see here that NIST AI RMF provide a structured approach to identifying, assessing, and managing risk associated with AI system throughout this life cycle. Okay, it's a flexible and comprehensive framework designed to help organizations of all sizes. At the core of the framework, there are 4 key functions. You can see here: govern, map, measure, and manage. At the core, there is the govern function. The governing is the overarching function that oversees the entire process. This involves establishing oversight mechanism for ongoing monitoring, reporting, and continuous improvement of our AI risk posture. The first function on the perimeter of the circle is the map function. And this is the foundational step where we identify the context, capability, limitation, potential impact of AI system within our enterprise landscape, and so on. Let me say it's a large asset management, basically. This involves understanding what the AI system is, what it does, and how it fits into our organization. The measure feature on the right, once we have mapped the AI system, we need to quantify its risk. This is done through the assessment methodology tailored to specific use case and the unique context of our organization, obviously. Let me say it's about moving from a general understanding of risk to a quantifiable one. Okay, so from the management, the assessment of the risk with the map feature, now we have to quantify all the risk. The last one is manage function, manage feature. So let me recap quickly. Map, where we can mapping our system, then measure to assess our risk, and then after risk management, the next step is the mitigation phase. This is exactly what happened in the manage feature. Based on our measurement, we have to implement a governance structure, policies, technical controls to mitigate the identified risk. This is where you put your risk mitigation plans into action. Okay, the next framework is the ISO standard for AI, ISO 42001. Let me say that the main objective of this standard is to implement an AI management system. So we can simply say that this ISO standard is totally aligned with the ISO HLS, okay? And so it's totally aligned with all the other management system standard into the big ISO family. So here we can find in this slide 4 main objectives of this standard. The first one is demonstrating responsible AI governance. How and why? Let me say, implementing ISO 42001 allows you and your organization to move beyond informal and ad hoc practices and establish a formal documented framework for AI governance. This means you have clear policies in place, procedures, accountability measure for every stage of the AI life cycle, from the initial design to the final decommissioning. It's a structured approach. It's not only good for internal management, but also provide verifiable proof of your commitment to ethical and responsible AI development. This standard is certifiable, obviously, as all the other management system, ISO management system standard. So we can also provide we can also build trust with stakeholders and regulators. Let me say that trust is your most valuable asset. By aligning your practices with a global recognized standard like this one, you build confidence with your customer, your partners, and also your public. Okay, this standard provides a common language, the HLS, and a clear set of benchmarks that can be used to prove your commitment to security and ethics. From the regulator's point of view, because we have said that this standard is certifiable, from the regulator points of view, it serves as a strong signal that you are proactively addressing compliance, but also potentially simplify legal and regulatory oversight. enhancing AI system quality and reliability. We have already say that this standard is building a structured management system. So the framework provides also a systematic way to develop, test, and monitor our AI system by defining clear processes for data quality, model validation, and performance monitoring. Your organization can reduce the likelihood of errors, biases, and unexpected behavior. So this leads to more robust, reliable, and predictable AI products that deliver consistent results and build user confidence. You know, user confidence is very, very important. The last one is mitigate potential risk and harms. As all the other frameworks, we already checked with NIST AI RMF, but all the other framework and regulation developing in the last times, we have seen that at the core of the framework there is always the risk management feature. It's the same also for the ISO 42001. Risk management enables your organization to systematically identify, assess, and address potential risk associated with your AI system. This includes everything from data privacy violation and algorithmic bias to security vulnerabilities and ethical dilemmas. So all the landscape of risk regarding AI. By implementing a proactive risk-based approach, you can also put controls in place to prevent this issue before they occur, protecting your organization from reputational, financial, and legal damage. We say before that NIST AI RMF and ISO 42001 are working in a similar way with the DEMI side, the continual improvement cycle. Obviously, also in this ISO standard, there is the plan, do, check, and act cycle. Okay, and let me also add another bit. If you are an ISO 27001 certified company, you are used to the standard organized in two main parts. The closest part, the standard itself, basically, and the Annex A with the list of controls. ISO 42001 is working in the same way. There are the clauses and there is the Annex A with a list of controls to implement into your AI system. Okay. The next framework is the European AI Act. Let me say this is an important step from the European side because AI Act represents probably the world's first comprehensive legal framework for artificial intelligence. The primary goal of this act is to ensure that all AI systems are safe, transparent, and human-centric. Human-centric is a very important step into the AI Act. Also in this case, we have a risk-based approach. Here, the AI Act categorized AI system into 4 levels based on the risk. Unacceptable risk. AI system that falls into this category are basically the manipulative AI, as is written here in the slide. So systems used for manipulative purposes are completely banned. Just a couple of examples. Applications designed to manipulate human behavior and applications that are using real-time remote biometric identification, such as facial recognition in public spaces. The next one is the high risk category. High risk systems are strictly regulated. The applications that are expected to pose significant threats to health, safety, or the fundamental rights of persons. Notably, AI system used in health, education, and recruitment, and also in critical infrastructure management, they are subject to quality, transparent, and human oversights. They must be evaluated both before they are placed on the market and throughout their life cycle. A smaller section, limited AI risk system, subject to lighter transparency obligation. We can say that most of the AI application used to develop images, sounds, or so on, or videos are falling into this this category at the moment. The minimal risk category, including the majority of AI application currently developed in the EU market, is mainly focused on the technical side of the application, such as spam filters and so on. Okay. Let me add another bit on the EU AI Act. It's crucial to understand the implication of a system being classified as AI risk. This is the most important category. These systems, such as those used in critical infrastructure or law enforcement, face stringent obligation. These include requirements for robust risk management, data governance, human oversight, and comprehensive cybersecurity measures. This is the category that will demand the most attention and effort in terms of governance and technical validation. Okay, next topic. So, after the frameworks, now we have to understand how we can implement the AI governance in our organization. Remember that one of the most important steps is always roles and responsibilities. So these slides represent the pyramid of the ownership of AI risk inside a normal organization. So let me say that it's a generic pyramid. We can obviously, and we have to adapt it to our organization. Some level can be summarized, can be merged, depends by your organization. Let me say that ownership of AI risk is a shared responsibility that must be distributed across the entire organization with a top-down approach. At the very top, there is obviously the board, because the board holds the ultimate accountability and provides strategic direction and oversight for all AI initiatives. Just below, there is the C-suite, and we can also imagine that board and C-suite can be merged and can be collapsed. The C-suite is responsible for providing the executive sponsorship. Remember that without the buy-in, any project is a failure. If you don't have a management buy-in, you cannot implement AI. And also another C-suite responsibility is to allocating the right number of resources to develop a AI management program. Moving down, we find the AI ethical committee. We have discussed it before around ISO 42001, and if you are used to implement ISO management system, you know that there is a strong commitment to have the management control. So normally we suggest to our customer to develop a committee, a control committee. Also in this case, we suggest to implement an AI ethics committee. And we can say that this is a crucial cross-functional body responsible for governance and policy development, ensuring that AI is used responsibly and ethically within the organization. The lowest level are the operational level, basically. So risk and security compliance teams Also, these teams play a vital role because they are tasked with the practical implementation of the AI risk framework and the management of the technical controls. Further down, we have the IT and business units. The IT team are on the front lines, and in the day-to-day implementation, day-to-day problem, day-to-day requirement by the end user, and they have to implement the technicality of the policies, basically. The lowest level, the final level, is the end user, all of us, basically. But end user role is fundamental because they are responsible for the safe and ethical use of AI system. Let me say, in every cybersecurity chain, end user is always the weakest link. Okay, so we have to pay a lot of attention on the end user, and the suggestion is to train our end users, our employees, for a responsible use of AI. An example of implementation, a real-world application, Microsoft Copilot. Why Copilot? Let me say the first reason is that probably Copilot is the most used application, AI application, and the most implemented in the last few months because it's totally integrated in Microsoft environment. And in the last few days, we have also the news that Copilot is integrating ChatGPT-5. Okay, so it's a very interesting opportunity now, Copilot. Here in this slide, we can see a real-world example how to apply governance frameworks to a tool that is in top of mind of many organizations for the reason say just before. We can break this process down into 3 key phases as designed here in this depicted here in this slide. The first phase is a risk assessment. You must conduct a thorough risk assessment involving and identify potential risks such as data leakage through user prompts, intellectual properties exposure if proprietary data is used, and the broader regulatory compliance implication. You also need to consider that the risk of integrating Copilot with sensitive system. I suppose that there are a lot of your organization using sensitive system in their infrastructure. So we can also perimeter the Copilot implementation involving or not sensitive system. But this is a risk that must be addressed. The second step is the governance control. In the Microsoft environment, we have a lot of other features helping us implementing Copilot. So once we have identified the risk, you have to establish also the governance controls. In this case, Microsoft tools such as Purview and Microsoft DLP policies can prevent sensitive information from being processed inappropriately. And you should also implement role-based access controls and leverage tenant-level configuration options to fine-tune who can use the tool and how. You can define different profiles in Microsoft Purview, so we can you can be really detailed on the feature that the user can implement, can use. Last is the implementation step. Finally, a safe deployments require careful implementation step. A phased approach is critical in this case. You should start with a pilot deployment. This is an important step. A pilot deployment involving a small user group, a controlled user group, because this allows you to test the controls and policies in a live environment. This is a very crucial step in your implementation. You must also establish document approval workflows, conduct user training on acceptable use, and put in place monitoring and audit procedures to ensure ongoing compliance. This structured approach, we can say that this structured approach ensure a safe and effective rollout of the technology. Yeah, let me say that in a slide that can appear simple. It's not simple at all. It requires a very detailed project, we have to put in place attention on every step and develop a very detailed project. Okay, Alex, it's your turn now. After the frameworks and after the organizational ownership and Copilot example, now the topic is how can we test our AI platform, AI system. Alex?
Yeah, thank you, Eugenio, for your slides. It was amazing. So turning the focus into penetration testing, the first question that we ask ourselves is why is penetration testing AI and LLM systems so uniquely hard and challenging from just traditional applications? And the big challenge and the big difference here is that you can see some attacks that I've mentioned here: unique threats, prompt injection, data exfiltration, model manipulation. These are all attacks that sound familiar, but the difference here is that the way that they show up in AI systems and the way we have to remediate them is completely new for us and completely different. They need to take a new approach. One of the toughest challenges is because these models are non-deterministic in nature. This is the nature of the models. The same prompt that doesn't always give you the same output. And vendors often push silent updates or fine-tune things in the background. And for us testers, this means that when we find and confirm a vulnerability, it doesn't mean it's not always easy to reproduce it the next day. Or even if we try to reproduce it, it may appear in the future while we have been fixed. That means also for us testers that we cannot rely on just one clever payload that can jailbreak your chatbot or AI integration. We have to look at it more of a class of exploits that can be affected by this attack or model. And if the model consistently fails under these conditions, that's how we prove that the actual AI is vulnerable. And here in the slide, you can see in the right corner, you can see a graph that we have collected from our own reports and our own tests for AI penetration testing. And you can see these issues as ranked with OWASP guide. And you can see that the top and highest risk is prompt injection. That's something that is a very evident example in all of our testing. We can see other issues like tampering, training data poisoning, sensitive information disclosure. That's always also something that we find in our testing, but the most common one is prompt injection. And what we have noticed that is for good reason why it's there and why it is so high in that list is because also any user, we saw that from the start when ChatGPT came up, any retail user can go on the chat and can try to break it, try to see if they can elevate their privileges by saying things like, ignore all previous instructions and just follow what I say. And that can bypass the policy that the AI has been trained on. And that's even a retail user can do. There is no specific attack that difference from an attack in a simple user. So that's why it is so high. And what we have seen also in 2025 is that not only this type of direct prompt injection exists, but also indirect injection, where malicious instructions are hidden in web pages, tickets, or chat threads, where the model can ingest those through RAG or tool integrations. And when the LLM reads this hostile content, it follows it like a policy. We have seen real-world incidents where attackers have planned content in external sources and had the AI execute actions it was never meant to execute. And also when we see that AI features adding agents and agentic features on top of that, where models can call APIs or send emails or interact with other services like cloud, then we see that the blast radius has grown significantly, the attack surface is massive, and there is a lot of opportunities to abuse these chains of attacks when a model can also communicate with other sources, can browse the internet, and can have these types of indirect attacks. And also the Mitre Atlas framework does a good job on highlighting these tactics and these techniques and how we can map them into detection and defense strategies. Next slide, please. So now let's talk about the practicality and how, as testers, we do test AI and LLM, how we perform penetration testing. In previous slide, we saw that some of the vulnerabilities that we are likely to uncover, but what are the actual components we assess in practice? So first, we start with the model behavior itself, how it handles input, whenever it respects guardrails, and how consistent it is with using adversarial prompting. We want to see not just if it can be tricked once, as we said before. We're not looking to jailbreak it by luck, but we're looking as a whole class of prompts that can bypass policies. The second, we look at the data layer. By that, I don't mean the original training data set, but the databases the model is connected to today. As we discussed previously with the AI now using agents and agentic features, it can reach a database, it can search the internet, so it can go on to do its fact check itself to provide you an output. And that means that it can retrieve information from retrieval augmented generation stores or internal documents or corporate documents, for example. And if those sources can be poisoned, then sensitive information can be extracted, and that's very dangerous. Also, with test interfaces and APIs, the way the model is exposed to users or other systems, there are often the classic web and API endpoints that they have their own security issues like authentication, authorization, rate limiting, for example. And these, but they also bring their own AI-specific risk like insecure output handling, where model responses are directly passed into downstream actions and systems. And then we also have to pay attention to agentic features and tool integrations. If the model, as we said, can call APIs or send emails or retrieve information for NQR databases, then this dramatically increases the attack surface. So we need to look for permissions, auditing, and guardrails around those actions. And finally, when we zoom out and review the system, then we review the system as a whole, because AI is not just in a small vacuum. It usually sits inside the layer of application where user accounts, dashboards, logging exist, and we try to understand how the AI layer interacts with a wider environment, and that is a key to building a complete security picture. And finally, on the defensive side, the overall theme here is defense in depth. There isn't just one thing, so we use a layered set of safety controls. First, we look at the trust hierarchy and the tool enforcement. If your AI agent can call APIs or take actions, those needs to be scoped as tightly as possible, ideally allow list or least privilege, in many cases even human in the loop for anything that is sensitive. And then we need to add a layered prompt protection This means that constraining the system prompts, reinforcing schema validation, adding content filters, and applying strict policy enforcement outside the model. So you just not rely on the LLM alone to behave. Then there is also supply chain hygiene. Is like traditional software where you want to know exactly which model adapter or guardrail services you're running. You need to track the versions, use signed artifacts where possible, and treat third-party plugins like is code dependencies. And finally, we should not underestimate the value of independent testing. Having a third-party red team or penetration testers to take a fresh look at your implementation is one of the most effective ways to find the gaps before the attackers do. And so if you put all these layers together, you get a much stronger defensive posture against those unique threats that we discussed in the previous slide.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex, for your really interesting presentation about the testing side of our AI system. Now, the last slide, this is the final slide, where I try to summarize all we have seen today in this webinar quickly, because Richard is saying that we are out of time, so very quick. First of all, let me say, if we are implementing an AI system in your organization, you must document AI cases, and this is the first step. Basically, before you can manage risk, you need to know what you are dealing with, and this is the first step. Once you have done that, you can apply governance frameworks. You can decide the right framework between the three frameworks we have discussed today. Next, you need to validate technical controls. This is the testing side, how and Alexandra has already explained right now. And finally, the last step, we don't have talked about this in detail, but the last step is obviously the continuous monitoring, establish metrics and review procedure for ongoing compliance. If you remember the three frameworks, all the frameworks have a continuous monitoring, continuous improvement step. Okay, so this was the last slide, the final slide. There is another poll question, Rebecca, if I remember right. Perfect, thanks. Your approach to AI governance and risk management, basically we are asking and we are trying to understand how your organization is mature or not to implement an AI system. How mature is your organization approach to AI governance and risk management? Remember what we have discussed today and choose the right answer from this list.
Are you saying there's a wrong answer on that list, Eugenio?
There is a wrong answer.
Avoid that wrong one. I'm not. Yeah, we won't tell you which one it is. Brilliant. So just while it's being answered, and we'll look at the results very quickly. And yeah, Eugenio, yeah, I think see that everyone's in those early stages of defining that governance and risk practice, which is really why we've launched this webinar to help people give some guidance. And I think we've probably just skated over the very surface or the top of the topic, and we could definitely dive down into loads of areas. Joe, we have loads of questions that have come in. I didn't mention it at the start, but I didn't mention the polls actually, but I also did mention that we have a Q&A function and session. Thankfully, everybody's jumped in on the Q&A. Joe, I've got my own questions that I'd love to ask you, Eugenio. Joe, I'm going to ask you one very quickly. The EU AI Act, when does it come into force?
EU AI Act. Let me check. I don't remember exactly this date, but
there you go. Caught you out, put you on the spot. Perhaps we'll follow up on that. So, John, we don't like to go over the hour, so I will just flick through the questions we've got.
But it's a good question for AI. You can ask it to ChatGPT.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I will just answer some questions, but please, we will just be aware that we will follow up with all of the answers to the questions in a follow-up. So if we don't manage to answer one live in the next 3 minutes that you're interested in hear the answer on, we will follow up. There was one question here around the opinion on implementing Copilot without Purview, which I just might give the answer on that very quickly. In Purview in place to support governance, I think important to note that Purview helps with governance, risk, and reporting around all use of LLMs, generative AI, and AI use in a business. And I would say that if you have Purview as part of your license, which no doubt you will if you're using Copilot built into 365, then I strongly recommend using it. The great thing that Copilot will do for you, and one of the risks that, Purview will do for you, and one of the risks that Copilot presented was the classification of data that's created from the source data. So being able to put those restrictions in place through the classification. So I would encourage people to use that if they've got that available, or other tools that allow you to manage your data security correctly. I will just flick through here. So I don't know who wants to answer this one, but in your experience, what are the biggest challenges in operationalizing AI governance? Which I think will be quite an important question to answer based on the response in that poll that people are in those early stages.
Can you repeat, please, Rich? Sorry.
Yeah, so in your experience, what are the biggest challenges in operationalizing AI governance?
Okay. Yeah, good question. Biggest challenges. You talked a lot about challenges for AI implementation. Let me say for what is our experience, we can say that one of the most challenge, the high challenge that we have to face is the lack of cross-functional collaboration. Let me say, looking and remember what we are discussing today. If you are implementing AI in your organization, you cannot think that it's just an ICT problem or an ICT matter, but you have to involve the entire organization. So first of all, as already said before, management buy-in, then clear ownership. Remember the pyramid, okay? And continuous education for end users. And obviously, you have to develop a cross-functional collaboration to success with this project. Don't forget also that you have to look for problem. If you are a multinational company working all around the world in different regional, you have to look for different governance and different law in your different countries.
Very good. John, we are up on the hour, so we don't like to go well beyond that. So as I say, we will answer all the questions in a follow-up. We have some great questions that have come in. So that just leaves me to say grazie, Eugenio, and Castro, Alex. And also thank you to everybody that joined another great episode of our webinar series where we've touched upon AI risk management from governance to testing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Everyone.